Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Weekly. I'm Gray,
And I'm Thomas.
and today's episode, we are going to talk about cancel culture. And people hear that in media and think, "Oh my God, is it another celebrity?" And then people will go on and say, "Oh my God, cancel culture is too much." Everything you can get canceled about. You can get canceled for like anything, and I'm like, no. My opinion about cancel culture is more accountability, holding yourself and holding others accountable too, because we all mess up. We're not perfect people, and if you're just held accountable, then yeah, you learn and move on. But some people have to just be like totally canceled. Like we're later today, we're going to talk about J.K. Rowling and how that's not cool, sis. And we're also going to talk about later when cancellation is not needed. For example, Ilhan Omar. So Thomas, when you hear the words cancel culture, what comes through your mind?
I think it's I think it's more about, you're right, it's more about accountability. It's more about what's socially, what would be socially acceptable in a social setting. And I think about this a lot, and I think how, even just from my parents' generation to now, and how, how a lot of like messed up ways of thinking and the way that we talk to people and the way we even describe people, or like who they were, who they are, like that stuff, like there's a reason why we put that to the wayside, and like we don't do that anymore, especially the generations after that. And I think social media as a tool, because of the fast interconnectedness of, like, distributing information, you can very quickly have a conversations with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I think particularly on, if something or says something, or it's but just not in that time period anymore. I think a lot of people that are getting, what they would define as, like, I guess, cancelled or just held accountable, they're probably still latching on to ways of thinking that were a little bit predated.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being held accountable for the way that they talk about people, the way they treat people, or
Yeah, because we're in
um
a time now where, for the most part, anyway, like there's still a lot of work to do, guys. Like, trust me, we are still not in a great place when it comes to equality and equity amongst those who have been disenfranchised. Like, we're not. Um, and but however, we are in a time where we are saying no, that's not okay, and we're fighting back. And that's what it is. It's us saying, no, that is not okay. We are not tolerating that. There are things that we're just not going to tolerate. We're not going to tolerate racism. We're not going to tolerate homophobia. We're not going to tolerate xenophobia, transphobia, any of ways of spreading hate and encouraging hate. We're not tolerating anymore. That's what we're saying. And that's what I think cancel culture is. It's not.
and I, yeah.
Go ahead. Go
No, no,
ahead.
sorry. I was going to say, I think, particularly because it hits a lot of people that you see a lot of these stories about, particularly people who are in the public eye a lot. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of what you would call celebrity status
Mm-hmm.
in society. Like, they're just well known in society. And I think, you know, part of the problem is if it's, say it's like I don't like using cancellation or cancelled or just accountable. Let's say social accountability, right? And it has to do with something that is actually a criminal offense. The justice system is just not up to scratch with actually holding people accountable, and that's where the social aspect comes in and goes, well, we're just not gonna react to this person anymore. Like we're just not
Yeah.
gonna do anything with them anymore. Um, and they hate that because people with money hate that because they hate the fact that they've been so used to beating the system in terms of like with the what you call the justice system because they have a lot of wealth and money and influence. Then they don't like the fact that they can't control like a social accountability. There's no way for them
Well,
to
it's so
control
funny
that.
because the right does it too. They call us snowflakes and call it cancel culture and say, "Oh, you just want to go around canceling people without any good reason." Y'all do that too. Like y'all did that with Colin Kaepernick and when Nike sponsored Colin Kaepernick or something and y'all wanted to burn your Nikes, y'all wanted to throw away Bud Light because they uplifted Dylan Mulvaney. Y'all do it too, but see, at least for whole, it's the accountability part. That's what matters.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, now I want to bring up a certain figure who has been canceled, and is J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling, she has been canceled for her transphobic remarks, saying that trans women don't exist, and um, trans women are harmful to women. She's even has gone far as to say that the Dementors in the Harry Potter universe are actually um representation of what trans women are. Um, Thomas, what are your thoughts on her?
Well, um, I think it's the biggest cell phone of all time, really. I think it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you could have just not been a bigot and gone down as probably one of the most beloved children's writers ever. Even with the work already being a little bit,
Oh, and we're gonna
the
talk about
work
that too.
the work later on is, obviously with this all coming out, she's been put under more of a microscope in terms of her actual writing and the books, and there's a lot to unpack in the actual books themselves. But I think if
Mm-hmm.
she just wasn't a bigot, I think she, like led a very comfortable. I mean, she's already in a comfortable life, but like I think it just shows that there's just a it's just a level of hate that is just it's just disgusting, really. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
so much wealth and money, and you've got you've like you've won the game essentially in life, and it's still not enough for you, and so you've still got to hurt people, and at the same time say that you're doing it in defense of another, and it's just totally and utterly untrue.
Um,
Mm.
yeah, my thing was also we're gonna move towards in the conversation is the books themselves. They have strong themes of anti-Semitism, racism, um, homophobia, transphobia, um,
Slavery, revisionism.
slavery, revisionism. Exactly. When I only read books 1 through 4 when I was a kid. Um, I think I started 5. I never finished. Um, I reread 1 through 4. I was starting to reread them, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot about Peeves. I forgot about all these sub characters that were never in the movies.
Hmm.
Um, what are the other two house elves? Um, one of them had like a little addiction. I forget her name.
No.
You know who I'm talking
So,
about though,
yeah, my,
right?
my, my yeah, my brain's blanking. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, oh, it's bugging me now. Oh well. If y'all know, please put it in the chat or put it in the comments. But anyway, so there there was talk about Hermione starting a slave rebellion, of the house elves. And here's Harry justifying house elf slavery. Um there's transphobic themes when it comes to Reader Skeeter's character, how she's an unregistered animagus and um is insulted with descriptions, insulting physical descriptions like mannish hands or having a mannish body, but still appearing as female. And I'm just like, it was there all along. We just didn't see it.
Hmm.
Because like we weren't like people just wasn't thinking about that stuff back then. Now we are more vigilant when it comes to the microaggressions and such. And when we look back, I mean, one could say that about everything. Like there's a couple of Friends episodes I can't even watch anymore because they're dated. You know, um,
And you know what? People like Rowling and what's been happening, because in the UK laws are a little bit different when it comes to defamation.
mhm,
So a lot of people who have, who are UK based, who have been online and very critical about Rowling's stances on trans people, Rowling has actually gone to the extent of like doing like cease and assist orders for the courts and basically getting these people to retract statements they've said online, which is basically, they're not even statements, they're just saying that what she's saying is like deliberately harmful.
mhm,
But she's claiming it as a defamation, as if you're destroying my character in the public, in the in the
mhm,
public setting. And because UK law is very anti-slap laws, it's quite easy to just, they're not as, America makes it more difficult. It's very hard to prove defamation in America. The laws, because of the the Constitution,
mhm,
um, to do with free speech. So one of the pros with
mhm.
American law is that even though bigotry is rife, you're not necessarily going to get someone with a lot of money saying you can't say something, um, about somebody
Yeah,
unless
no.
it's
No, no,
and that,
calling out someone's bigotry should definitely not be like something you should be penalized for or like no, if you're a bigot, you don't get to sue someone for calling you a bigot. You're a bigot. They're stating truth.
yeah. Mhm.
Sorrows,
Yeah,
sorrows, prayers.
and like the amount of, bringing this conversation back to cancel culture, the amount of like stuff that she's orchestrated, like, I mean, people knew, like, her and people who are on this movement, of anti-trans people. They even
Mm-hmm.
tried to get an anti-trans suicide hotline shut down, and
Oh
even a
yeah, and
chat,
that just went live.
and they also tried to get the charity, a UK based trans charity, try and get it. They want to get that shut down as well. And it's just, yeah, it's just another level of hate. And I think, when we talk about cancel culture in this setting, it's fundamentally to do with it. This is completely just accountability for her actions. Like, this is like, you're not getting cancelled
Mm-hmm.
because of an opinion. This isn't an opinion. You're getting
Yeah.
you. you're socially being disregarded because what you're
Mhm.
doing is harmful and hurting
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Like, and that's another thing that pisses me off about this is like, well, it's just my opinion. An opinion is like, I like coffee over tea. I like chocolate over vanilla. Not, I don't think certain people should have rights. No,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to freely say that. You don't get to do that. I'm sorry. It causes harm. It does. You just don't get to be blatantly racist or offensive or whatnot. You just don't. And that's entitlement right there,
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
How fucking dare you? Who the
yeah.
fuck are you to say who gets to have rights or who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't? Or who the fuck are you to invalidate someone's existence? Um, sorry, y'all. I went on a little rant. Uh, but one thing I wanted to talk about now was the BDS movement and the cancellation of some people who have been very critical, again, being very critical of Israel and the Israeli government and their treatment of the Palestinian people. First of all, what are your thoughts on this topic, Thomas?
Well, when they if we're referencing cancel culture, I
Mm-hmm.
would say again, it's it's accountability, right? But it's also this conversation, particularly around the state of Israel and its treatment of Palestinian people.
Mm-hmm.
It's conflating anti-Semitism with the mere criticism of a state, and I think um, when media and people who work in certain fields, when they criticize people and label people anti-Semites for criticizing a state's hostility towards a demographic of people. Um, it's I think it's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
I think the conflation to say that someone's and they know what they're doing, and I know why they're doing it because it's an easy deflection. They can say, "Well, you just don't want the state of Israel to exist. You don't want Jewish people to have a homeland.
Well,
You like everything we've been through in history, and like you
see,
just
here's
want us to
my
not
thing
exist."
though, and it goes into that topic. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a little wishy-washy, but the state of Israel, I mean, at this point shouldn't exist. You don't get to have a country after doing this. No, sorry. No, I like that, and it's not
Yeah,
anti-Semitic
it's
to say that. You your government should not exist if you're committing human rights, crimes against regarding human rights. You know, it,
yeah,
it
yeah.
one of the things that pisses me off is that the people on the right and even people who are Democrats have will cancel those who do criticize Israel. For example, Ilhan Omar. She was completely correct in her criticism of Israeli lobbyists who lobby our government to fund their government and fund their universal healthcare system and fund their military and fund their oppression of the Palestinian people. And
Mhm.
she was 100% correct, but was made to apologize. And I really wish she didn't either. I really wish she didn't because they were not anti-Semitic. She was clearly criticizing lobbyists and the Israeli government.
Well, it goes even further than that. There's some states in the US who have written legislation that's passed where if you are affiliated in any way with the BDS movement, whether you're a teacher, whether you're whatever profession you work in, and you are outwardly saying that we boycott Israel, um, you could get fired, and that's or they won't work with you, and that's complete, and that's legal in some states of the United States.
Not California, is
Because
it?
no, I don't think it's California, but I'd have to look up. But there's a lot of legislation around the anti-BDS movement. They're trying to stop people from being able to boycott um,
Well,
outwardly and
Congress
openly.
went ahead and voted to condemn the movement entirely.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, and the irony is that it completely infringes on, we use the same argument. This is infringing on the free speech laws and the Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
infringed on the constitutional right. And the problem is, what they've been doing is they've been using they're conflating anti-Semitism with this movement, and that's why they're able to be doing this. They're conflating.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to suggest that any criticism whatsoever, is anti-Semitic against Jewish people. Um, so any criticism of the state doing,
Mm-hmm.
war crimes, human rights violations against different demographics of people, like it's just you just can't do it. Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because and it's all just revolves around the fact that they've conflated anti-Semitism with the criticism of this particular nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
One final thing about the topic of cancel culture I wanted to ask was, when people do say or do things that are, you know, that aren't tolerable, do you think they should get fired? Like, let's say someone sees a, or like lose their school scholarship, or lose their admission or whatnot. Like, people have, said something stupid on the internet and then get fired for it. Or like what's your thoughts on that?
It really comes down to context, and it really comes down to, you know, if, say, we had a teacher who was making abhorrent racist remarks about black children online, and they teach and interact with black children on a daily. um i think I think people should be aware that this
Mm-hmm.
teacher, because, like, they might not do it openly and outwardly to
I think it
those
also depends
children.
on the profession too. Like, for
It
example,
depends on, as I said, it depends on the context. Like,
yeah.
so, sorry, I just want to make a final point.
No, no, no,
Is
go for it.
kind this is more an off cuff thing, but, like, the reason why I brought up celebrities and the use of the justice system to protect themselves, I think
Mm-hmm.
of people like I think of people like um, Kevin Spacey, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and he has essentially been what you would define as cancelled, even though he's beaten a lot of these charges in court, is because the evidence is the social evidence is so overwhelming, that you can beat this, and you can pay people off, keep it all on the hush, like,
Mm-hmm.
so many people came forward that it was just, at this point, it's like, well, what are the odds that you've not done it to 30, 40 people,
Mm-hmm.
50 people? And I think, that's an example of, like, well, that's social accountability. The law hasn't been able to hold you accountable because, you have an abject influence over the law. So that's where social accountability is coming in now. We just, I'm sorry, but you don't get the privilege of working in this industry anymore because people don't want to see you.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, like you said, I think it really just comes down to what you do. And
Yeah, because like, I don't want a racist, teaching children. But, if you're going to your local McDonald's and, the cashier is a racist, I'm like, okay, fuck you. Give me my McChicken. That I don't care. If my doctor's racist, that's a problem. If my barista is, not so much. But I mean, private businesses do reserve the right to do that. To They don't have to work with you. And if they don't want to work with you because you're racist, that's called a consequence. There are consequences to your actions. Um
Yeah.
and like another thing is when it comes to like college admission, people are like, well, that's their education and they're entitled to an education. Well, yeah, but again, if it's a private institution, they don't have to work with you. I would say different if it's a public institution, or like a community college, for example,
Hmm. Yeah.
that is there for the community. But if it's Cal State LA, no, they don't have to teach you. You can go to other college, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So,
I really think it depends on the situation.
mhm,
I think and that's why I've been, you know, it's all about social accountability, and the reason why I brought up the stuff with the justice system is that I really do believe that the justice system with handling stuff like this is so far behind with
mhm,
holding people accountable, like actually holding people accountable for like hate speech, racism, bigotry, like and the harm caused by it. That
mhm,
people are turning to alternative uh, venues to try and seek justice. I think about the Me Too movement. I think about there's so many instances of like people having to turn to alternative sources to try and get the I guess the voice heard, to try and get people to acknowledge the harm that some people are doing to others.
mhm. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
folks, thank you again for tuning into another episode of Let's Talk Weekly. I am Gray,
and I'm Thomas.
and we will see you next week. Take care.